for the opportunity to come out and share a little bit about 3M's journey on how we're helping to improve exchanging data. I'm really directing this more to the distributors who are in the room, but for any of you that might be working with distributors, I'm sure a lot of this is going to resonate. I represent 3M, which we're a manufacturer, otherwise known as a supplier, and my customer is a distributor, and key accounts as well, like Toyota, for example, Boeing, some of the big ones that want to buy from us directly. So kind of a little bit of a different audience, but kind of similar issues when it comes to exchanging information, exchanging data. I'm really going to focus in on one specific point because we've spent a considerable amount of money over the years in understanding how we can exchange data more effectively. And yes, I am going to talk a little bit about EDI. Sorry about that. But before we get into that, as always, we do a little intro here at 3M. We always like to do little fun photos on the side. This is actually part of our culture. So you're actually seeing a little slide that I usually share internally. And yes, it is true. I'm Lean Six Sigma all the way. I've always been an operations person. The gentleman that was presenting before that was super engaging from the Disney perspective, where he talked about things that happen that you see when you're a kid. It is true, when I was a kid, I didn't know it at the time, but I was an ops person, which was really scary for my parents, by the way, because they were very artsy, and I was very operations, and they didn't like it when I moved things around in the kitchen all the time for them. But that's just how I was, and they let me kind of do my thing, and God bless them, really appreciate that. Anyway, I wanted to share just a little bit about why I'm here and what I want to talk about. More specifically, it really goes back to 3M's commitment. This is actually from our earnings overview, in case you guys care about that. But we do focus on many different things. This is a growth discussion. I believe that there is growth through effective, not just efficient, but effective operations. And one of the paths that we're on, which I'll talk to you in a minute, is probably one of our most effective operations. And so I'm super excited to share a little bit of that with you. We do focus on operational excellence as an organization. I'm super excited to be a part of the company that I'm with. They recognize me. All those things that were talked about earlier about talent. By the way, I really love the talent discussion because I actually spend a lot of time with my team really talking not so much about where do you want to go next in your career, but what makes sense for who you are, what comes naturally, what's easy, what's fun for you. And it's true, operations can be really fun. I think so. And the people that work for me and work with me think it is as well. That's one of our commitments to our employees. There we go. We have an operating model that is very much based on 4 strengths. Sorry, I'm doing the little sales pitch here, but this is also why I get up in the morning and I get excited about operations, because it's foundational in here. Everything that you see here has a business operations component to it. I'm not in supply chain. My job is not in supply chain. I actually work mostly with IT, but I'm in business operations as well. And I'm also here talking to distributors. So it's a very interesting world that we're in. And it's been great to see and talk to a lot of you during the break to understand what's making your world tick. Like what's working, what's not. Where do you have your challenges? Your challenges are my challenges as well. And for every large organization that's out there, we're all struggling on the business operations side. And how do we make everything flow? How do we make everything flow effectively? And data is the key. I mean, data flow and effectiveness around that is absolutely the key. 3M, again, sorry, but 3M is spending a lot of money on digitization. We're nearing the end of a 10-year journey of converting to SAP. SAP is our ERP solution. Yes, it's 10 years. Yes, we're super close, super close. But what I can do right now is you can give me any of the accounts that we work with today, and here on my phone, I can see what our sales are right now, What did we sell yesterday? What does that look like? How back ordered are we? What does the supply issue look like right now? And how fast am I going to get the next order to that account? I can do that today. So Chris, we can talk about that, by the way, because Chris is one of my accounts over there. Anyway, we are very focused on digital. Now, we have still a long journey, because as I mentioned, we're still using EDI. But we're using EDI because that's what our accounts want. So this is not about us. This is not about my company. It's about what our accounts want. Our accounts being distributors. How do you operate? And we have the spectrum. We still have accounts that fax in orders, and that's cool. We can do that. We've got machine learning tools that can help us with this. We'd prefer that not to be the case in operations, but we can make that work. We have accounts that are still using EDI. That's cool. We can do that too. We have some accounts, many accounts actually, that are using our extranet site. We call it BCom. That's cool. We love that because there's a lot of really cool things there. But it does require them, if you're an account of mine, to log in. And that means you've got my website up, you've got another supplier website up, you've got another one 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 up. Oh yeah, by the way, you've got your own ERP up. And to be honest, that's kind of a pain, right? So we've been looking for ways to make it even easier to do business with our company, and I'll get to that in a second. As we think about what improvement means, though, just like some others have talked about, it is all about the customer's perspective. I look at data all day long. I woke up and I looked at data. At lunch, I was looking at some data. Probably after this, I'll be looking at data because I'm watching the trends day in and day out, hour by hour, on how well we're doing, how effective we are in terms of our data exchanges, and how that impacts our customers. Our number one, I'm sure you're all shocked by this, but our number one issue is inventory availability. Anybody surprised by that? No, nobody's surprised by that. So when we were going through what new improvements we need to make at the beginning of the pandemic, because that's when the supply chain issues started, when we started having, of course, issues from a raw material perspective. There were issues in Texas trying to get our petrochemical products, right? Because there were storms there. That knocked all those things off. We had the pandemic. We had all the talent challenges that were happening. We knew that we were going to have inventory availability challenges, just like every other manufacturer and supplier. And that's exactly what happened. So even back then, we were already starting to work on what was next, what do we need to do to make sure we can get the data flow effectively. Unfortunately, our number two issue, of course, is pricing and cost increases. Raw material suppliers have increased our price. Unfortunately, we have to pass some of that along. And then, of course, now it lands on our distributors, our partners' shoulders, and they have to do the same thing where they have to apply their margins as well. So how do we get cost out of the process, right? What do we need to do to make the process flow as effectively as possible so we can reduce manual work as much as possible? Can you tell I'm an operations person, by the way? Because that's how we talk all the time. We have many other things that we've been focusing on, but those are probably the big two. And then you can see what my case rates are. These are all the phone calls that we get today from our customers in history around especially those top two issues. I believe that a data partnership with our customers is the number one way that we can make everything effective. That partnership, I think I was talking to some folks at lunch today. You guys are way in the back. Hello there. And we were talking about how everything can be standardized. You can standardize operations, but you can also standardize too much. And too much means that every single account has a different way of looking at their data and a different way of interacting with their data. We know that, you know that, but when we're like in my company's place, when we're connecting with our customers, we have to create both a standard and a personalized and customized way of delivering information. And what that really means, ultimately, is that it can't be about my solution. It has to be our solution. And it also means that we're not in control of when you need the data. You're going to be in charge of the data. You're going to be in charge of pulling the data from us to determine and then use it as you see fit. However you need to put it, whether it's in a database, your ERP, throw it on your e-commerce site, doesn't matter to us. You know, that's the most important thing, and that's kind of, I think, that one of the biggest evolutions of data exchanges and operations that's coming and is already here in many cases. We know that real-time data is needed, so it can't be in my schedule. It has to be in your schedule. Everybody talks about this, but delivering it, of course, is very challenging. Data accuracy, so we like to think that we have perfect data, because, you know, we have perfect data, but no, we don't. And I'm sure all of you like to think that you have perfect data. Do you have perfect data? No, you don't have perfect data, no. Nobody has perfect data. So how do you improve over time what you have in your database? Which, oh, by the way, as soon as you fix it, it's broken because something else is coming. Products discontinued, or it's been replaced, or because of regulations, it now has a new description, or, right? And so how do you keep up with the dynamic nature of data, even though we say we have static data? It's all dynamic. It's all dynamic. I think the last thing, which is all why we're here, is data tools, which I know that when you were giving your speech, unfortunately, the last bullet point that you had about requirement about talent is the understanding of digital tools. And you jumped to your next slide, which is disappointing, because I'm 100% with you. The understanding internally within my company, but also with our distribution partners, of the importance of digital tools. These are really obvious things, but it makes it is hard. It's not talked about as much on the back end side of managing our relationship. A lot of it's talked about on what does the e-commerce site look like. I understand that. I worked on that side too, but I get excited about the back end improvements because that's the engine. It really is the engine, and candidly, it's where most of the cost is right now, because of all the manual work that has to go into it. And there's a certain degree that cannot be fixed, but there will always be, I think, more and more automation solutions for this. There's my EDI slide. So yes, EDI is here. It's fine. It is the most expensive way to exchange data, let's be honest. It's an exchange of flat files. You have to get the mapping exactly right. I'm not even going to tell you how many months it takes for me to execute a new EDI. Don't even want to talk about it. But if the customer wants it, we'll set it up. But where I really want to try to push my distributor partners, my wonderful distributor partners, is think about APIs. API to us, and this is where I'm going to probably spend the rest of my discussion, is it's here, it's already live. We use APIs a lot internally between our system-to-system checks. We've been using them for almost 10 years now, internally. But recently, over the last year, we've now released a series of external APIs that I think are going to solve a lot of the things that I was just talking about. That investment is an investment both from a systems perspective, and we have amazing technology that's helping us with that, but really focusing in on a suite of API tools. We also partner with Amazon, the A company, and they have over 157 APIs. That's great. Too many. Way too many. And I say that only because it's there's overlap, there's duplication. I understand why they have the suites. It's very complicated. They're not simple. They're not simple tools. We have a whole standalone team right now that's working to do more data integration with them using their APIs, and that's great, but I have a whole team that's working with them on this. So what we wanted to do is to ensure that we made the APIs as simple as possible, And then we started with the most important pain points that our distributors had. And again, it goes back to that listening to the customer that was talked about before. And I'll share a little bit story on this, on why we've kind of done this approach. Our approach here is that we're not going to push data to our distributors. We're asking our partners to pull data from our ERP. So, and we also ask for only one piece of information. So we say, send me the SKU, and if you want to know what the price is and all the related price breakdown, unit of measure, all of the special, price agreements, discounts, whatever it is that's associated with that SKU, give me the SKU number, and we'll deliver that data back to you within less than 2 microseconds. You can ping me as long as you want, send me as much as you want, and we'll deliver that information. And so we're doing that today. Inventory availability, same thing. Send me the SKU. I'll let you know what DC it's at, how much is on stock, and then we're also telling them how fast you can get the information, or how fast you can get the product. What's the estimated delivery date? Very simple. Simple, simple, simple. Here's my story. We tried APIs before. We tried it early in the pandemic. And God bless them, it was organized by the IT group, and I love IT people, by the way. I'm not an IT person, by the way. I'm a customer operations person. But it took 18 months to create a very complex API that was based on one need, which was, I want to see inventory availability. And they added a whole bunch of other things to it. And we couldn't get it off the ground from a technical perspective. It was too complex. When I took this over, and this is why I want to make an advocacy too about being really simple. If you're working with any partner, begin at the beginning, address one thing, iterate, move on. That's actually a philosophy of my company, but it's sometimes doesn't come into practice because I work with a lot of engineers, and there is a tendency, let's make sure we cover everything, right? Let's make sure we cover every contingency. You can't do that. It's very challenging sometimes. So we changed our whole philosophy. We flipped it around, and last fall we launched our API. We started with one, which is the inventory availability API, which is actually our number one most popular API. And then we flipped that around, and then we started adding in some other APIs. So right now, this may seem like a really small menu, because it is, but it's the most impactful APIs that we have for our partners. Okay, so what, right? If you're not a distributor of ours, you may never, ever, ever need any of these APIs. The point I'm trying to make for this group is that it's really easy to over-engineer. And I think the key here is if we keep it simple, we keep it super easy, over time, I know I'm going to be adding a little more complexity to each one of these APIs because I'm going to be adding more data fields, I'll be adding more layers, things like that. But in the beginning, we needed to keep it as simple as possible so that our partners could pick this up, easily get the information that they need, be able to put it into their systems, onto their screens, in their ERP, and be able to have the information that they needed in order to deliver a sale, to close a sale, or to monitor what's going on from a shipping status, for example, or even looking at invoices, right? Because invoice management is also very painful, as I think some other folks had mentioned. So this is where we are in our journey. We have others that we're trying to build. I have 50 other APIs that we need to proceed with, and so I'll be busy here for the next couple of years working with my team for rolling this out globally. I have 300,000 customers worldwide who are eligible for these APIs. So I'll be a very, very busy person along with myself and the team, and I'm kind of looking forward to see how we end up rolling these things out. So I'll just leave you with this last thing, which I've mentioned here before. There are many different ways of exchanging data, of delivering information. hands down, API for us, we're going to be spending more time. We're, in essence, doubling down on our investment, our focus on APIs. We believe this is the way, this is the path forward. I would, just really remind everyone, keep it simple. If you're just starting on this journey, many of you are not, I know, because based on all the discussions here. I know that ultimately the benefits are going to outweigh potentially the initial investments, but even those initial investments from an IT development perspective are going to be relatively small, especially when you compare it to other things, perhaps like EDI or perhaps like some other solutions. I know that DCKAP has been great thank you again, by the way, for inviting me here. I really appreciate it. We work with, DCKAP actually works with some of our accounts to help with their third-party integration because perhaps their IT departments either have other things on their plate and they can't get to it, or candidly, they may not have the API development capabilities. They've been a great partner, and we're hearing great things from our accounts about it. And I would just really encourage you to consider APIs and the role it can play in helping streamline data exchanges. With that, I am done. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.